In this episode of the Locked On NBA Big Board Podcast, it is the Underdog Diaries Volume 2. This is a series where me and my brother James, we're going to uncover and talk about some prospects that have flown under the radar that we think deserve a little bit more NBA draft love. So stay tuned to hear our thoughts on Money Williams, James's favorite under the radar prospect. Chaz Lanier has got a little bit of buzz. And Joe Charles, a 3-and-D stat stuffing sleeper. Stay tuned. Big shout out to each and every person that has made the Locked On NBA Big Board Podcast your first listen of the day. I'm your host, Rafael Barlowe, along with my co-host, James Barlowe. Before we get into this episode, I want to let you know that it is brought to you by FanDuel. You know about FanDuel. Why? Because FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook, and you can start this season with a big return on FanDuel. All you have to do, place a $5 bet, and you can get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. So visit FanDuel.com to get started. And if you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel, please subscribe, like, share, comment. That is the best way to help us grow the channel, and make sure you click the bell so you can be notified every time we drop, because we're coming at you with NBA draft content at the minimum 5 days a week. Some week it may be 6, some weeks it may be 7, but we are your source. In my opinion, I'm a little biased. We are your best source for NBA draft content. We got me, we got James, we got Leaf Tulane, we got Richard Statement. So you're getting multiple opinions and multiple perspectives. That's why you got to tune in to the Locked On NBA Big Board Podcast. All right, James, let's get right into this episode. Underdog Diaries Volume 2. I was trying to say diaries and volume at the same time. Underdog Diaries Volume 2. The first episode, we talked about two guys from St. Joe. We talked about Eric Reynolds. We talked about Rasheer Fleming, who I think is a first-round pick. And then we also covered Jerry Dang, who was making the huge jump from Hampton to Florida State. And in this episode, we're going to talk about, well, at least the first segment, Money Williams. I know you've been waiting to get this off your chest. You've been talking about Money Williams, and so far, to my knowledge, the best name in college basketball. You've been talking about him since late January, February.
Yes, I can show you the text message too if anybody doesn't believe me.
What do you like about Money Williams?
I mean, his birth name is Money, so like, that's a plus right there.
Hold on. When your birth name is Money, you got to have game. You got to have game. You can't be Money Williams and you don't have any sauce or flair or flavor to your game. You got to live up to the name.
Well, thankfully, Money does live up to the name. Quick backstory: he led Oakland high school, same high school as Damian Lillard. They won their first ever state championship. Money, 6'4", 200 pounds. He's every bit of 200 pounds. Montana Grizzly, and he just has game. Ralph, like lefty, creative passer, very good handles. He uses his God-given strength to get to his spots. He had a game against Houston last year. Houston's one of the better defensive teams in the country last year. Really, every year they blitz the pick and rolls, and he figured that stuff out. And I don't know if it was Jamal Shead. I couldn't remember if it was him or somebody else, but he dropped somebody that game and got to the basket and got fouled. Like, he physically reminds me of Baron Davis. He doesn't have that. He's not going to bang on you like Baron Davis used to, but he's built like Baron Davis. Got good quickness, very good passer. He's a ball player, man, like rebounding guard. And I really think that had he not got hurt last year, he played 12 games. Had he not got hurt last year, he would have put his name in the portal. He would have been one of the hottest names in the portal for sure, because he can hoop. They played Oregon last year. I believe they played him tough. And he basically scored half the team's points in the second half. So really good guard. Like I said, I think he has the opportunity to play in the NBA one day. Prior to his injury, he averaged 15 points, 4.6 rebounds, 3.7 assists, 4 free throw attempts a game, pick and roll, 0.885 points per possession. Like, he can hoop.
Yeah, and in the games that he started, he was averaging like 18 points per game in the 6 games that he started. I like the Baron Davis comparison. I see the body type. I see like the strong frame, but like the light on his feet.
Yeah.
I like how he kind of has like this little bounce and his hop in his step. Definitely doesn't have Baron's launching pad or his explosiveness, but I can see that. Knows how to use his body, knows how to use his strength. And while we're comparing him a little bit to Baron Davis, he does have some ties to Damian Lillard. Crazy coincidence is they went to the same high school. They're both from Oakland. And Money Williams' foot injury is the same foot injury that Damian Lillard had when he was at Weber State. But yeah, it's it kind of stinks for him in a sense, because right when he was like finding his groove and getting in his rhythm, that's when he got hurt. Very mysterious, like not a guy that you can find a lot about online, not active on social media. I mean, I think there's like a Twitter handle under his name, but it's like high school stuff. But I like him. In my notes,
talk to me, Ralph.
In my notes on Money Williams, I describe him having let me be a little PC here. I describe him as having a playground game. And just the fact that when I say playground game, I'm talking about a guy that just exudes offensive creativity, doesn't look like a guy. And if you've been listening to the podcast, you know how I feel about certain players. Doesn't look like a guy that, learn how to hoop, dribbling through cones and ball handling drills. I mean, this just looks like the instincts and scoring creativity that you get from just hooping, from just playing on the playground, whether it's outside, whether it's pick up in a gym. He just has like a natural feel and instincts that you can tell he's just not robotic. Like there's some guys that you can tell, as me and James would say, are built in a lab. It's hours of training and doing 5 dribble moves against cones and mock defenders. But I think Money was just hooping. I mean, I could be wrong, but I love his feel for the game. I love the pace. To me, that's his greatest asset, is that he just plays with tremendous pace. Can't speed him up. He has total control when he has the ball. Like I said, you can't speed him up. Uses his body, does some like advanced stuff as far as like from being a freshman, knows how to like put defenders in jail, knows how to, when he gets off the pick and roll, like set up the pick, make the, create the 2-on-1 in the pick and roll. I mean, there's a lot to like about him. Talked about the strength.
I told you, contact. Bro. I was telling you. I was like, yo,
you were telling me.
Got it.
Yeah, shifts gears. I like that. He shifts gears, shifts
speeds.
Pick
and rolls. Yes.
He was a good finisher at the rim. Not like a vertical athlete, but he shot like 61% at the rim. Now, the concerns I do have is that he doesn't have like the ideal athleticism that NBA teams look for. He has a quick first step. He can get to his spots, but he's not like playing above the rim, not very vertically explosive. And then if there was like an area to nitpick about his shooting, because he can't score, he only shot like 26% on catch and shoot jumpers.
Yeah. Let me run some stats off before we go to a break. Since 2016, 2017, freshmen or sophomores, guards who had a player efficiency rating greater than 23, assist percentage greater than 30. I'm nerding out on you, Ralph. Box plus minus greater than 5 that have played over 200 minutes. Let me run these names. Trae Young, I think you heard of him.
Pretty good.
John Morant, I think you heard of him.
Yeah, pretty good.
Juwan Evans, he was drafted.
Mm-hmm.
Dennis Smith was drafted. Markelle Fultz was drafted, obviously.
Number 1.
Wade Taylor.
Very, very good college player.
Very good college player. Lonzo Ball was drafted. Jalen Pickett was drafted. Scottie Pippen Jr. They just basically gave him the keys as the backup or third string point guard. Tyrese Halliburton, Cassius Winston was drafted. I mean, Drew Smith. I mean, look, the numbers say that, again, it was a very, very small sample size, but the numbers say that he has NBA talent and he passes the eye test. That jumper improves. Look out. And look, I looked at their schedule. They got Tennessee this year and they got Oregon. So if you want to see them against high major competition, tune in.
Yeah, that's good numbers. That's good company to be in. Look at you nerding out.
Man, listen to me. Don't let the dreads fool you, man. Like, you know what I'm saying? I could run a spreadsheet or two.
Doing your research. At least you saved it for the back end of the segment and didn't lead with it, because we gotta let people know we are all about the eye test first. Numbers matter, but to me, it's eye test first. I just feel like there's a lot of people that are just crunching numbers and they're not.
They got to
really
work together,
film.
man. They got to work together.
Yeah. No, but I like Money Williams. I definitely think that he is a breakout candidate, and I've told some people about him, but we'll see if people listen. But you were on the Money Williams train, the money team. You were on it first and foremost. I won't take credit. I don't want to say I discovered it, but I won't take credit for being the first person to break Money Williams, because you've been talking about him since February. So. Yeah. Good eye. All right, when we return, we're going to talk about Chaz Lanier, a transfer who is headed to Tennessee. And actually,
that's a matchup.
Chaz Lanier and Money Williams. I mean, they don't play the same position, but they will square off against each other. Their teams will face each other this season. But let's talk about FanDuel. Why? Because FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. And if you're an NFL fan, there is a way that you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. But when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you're watching the game and you want to check out the live stats, or you want to view the play-by-play, you can do that and more right in the app or the same page that you place your bets. But this is where you can win big. You can get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Once again, thank you for making the Locked On NBA Big Board podcast your first listen of the day. I know this episode is coming to you a little late on a Monday, but thank you for not listening to anybody else and waiting on us. But thank you for making the Locked On NBA Big Board podcast your first listen of the day. Now, there's no offseason in the NBA, and the NBA season is around the corner. You had Media Day today, and no one keeps you as informed every day. Then the Locked On NBA podcast, you get daily basketball analysis from the national and the local experts, and you get it in 30 minutes or less. No one keeps you as informed or as entertained as Locked On NBA. It is available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts as part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every single day. All right, second segment, Chaz Lanier. Chaz Lanier was a player that I started monitoring probably like midway through last season, had a really good year. Obviously, like we mentioned, he's going to Tennessee. So he's making the transition from North Florida to Tennessee. When I watch him, there's an NBA player that comes to mind.
Ooh, this is what I want to hear. I want to hear this, Raf.
I could be wrong, but the player that I saw was Isaiah Joe. That's who I saw with Chaz Lanier, Isaiah Joe, a guy that I think is going to have a defined role in the NBA as a shooter. And one thing Chaz Lanier can do is shoot the ball. So I saw a lot of Isaiah Joe.
Is it the hair?
I don't know. That's just what I saw. But Lanier can shoot on the move. I think he has good footwork. He knows how to create space. With a limited hand, I wouldn't say he's like a crazy shifty ball handler, but he knows how to create space. Good athlete. He's bouncy when he has a runway, and he can like attack the rim on straight line drives. He's a backdoor like vertical lob threat, kind of like how Kansas used Ben McLemore back in the day. And you talk about draft misses. I mean, Ben McLemore had a decent career, but I thought Ben McLemore was going to be the real deal, because he was like knocking down threes, movement threes, and then when like defenders overplayed it, he was catching lobs at Kansas. And then I didn't realize that his hands were weak. There's this video, man. You can look it up, where Kawhi Leonard was just snatching the ball out of Ben McLemore's hands. So anyway, this is not a Ben McLemore diss episode. But what do you think about Chaz Lanier?
I didn't have the Isaiah Joe comparison. I think Isaiah Joe is a flat-out shooter. I think Chaz Lanier is a scorer. And my comparison was way off. And I'm not comparing what he will be at the NBA. I'm just talking about what he looks like today, how he moves, how he's built, how he scores, and whether it translates, a totally different story. But he moves like Gilbert Arenas to me. Like Gilbert,
he doesn't have Gilbert's like.
Let me finish. He doesn't have Gilbert's first step, but Gilbert didn't have a lot of crazy handles, right? Gilbert was just, I'm getting to my spot and I'm going. Like he's kind of like built like Gilbert. Gets to the basket, obviously not the same foul rate, but like he moves like Gilbert Arenas to me. I think he's more of a scorer than a shooter. I want to see how Tennessee uses him because again, like I had mentioned on the volume 1 of this series, if you told me Eric Reynolds could play some point guard, I really like him. If you told me Chaz Lanier could play point guard, I would really, really like him because like he's got really, really good pace, very strong frame. I think he's a really good athlete because he does finish at the rim. Well, he bang on you. Is he Anthony Edwards? That's what I always say. Nobody's Anthony Edwards, but he finishes at the rim. He shot 68% at the rim. Now, again, I know it's North Florida.
It don't matter. It's nearly 70% at the rim.
70% at the rim.
Yeah.
At 6'3", 6'4" is amazing. He shot 43% on all jumpers, and he was 43% off the dribble. And like, it was crazy is without even looking at the synergy numbers, after watching him for about 5 minutes, I was like, yo, he's going left every single time. And guess what? He goes left every single time, but he's right-handed. And it's not left to get to my pull-up. It's left to get to the rack. So, like, I want to see him at Tennessee play point guard. And again, playing point guard.
Now with Zakai Ziegler there.
Man, Zakai still there, man?
Yeah.
Dang, Zakai. All right, anyway, I want to see him handle the ball more in pick and roll because if you told me Chaz Lanier had point guard skills, then I think he could be really, really good and carve out some space for him as an NBA player. But if he is going to play the 2, then maybe he has to become Isaiah Joe, and he has proven that he can shoot the ball. But, like, I really, really like his game. If nothing else, he's very entertaining at the collegiate level.
I mean, you said he's proven he can shoot the ball. That's an understatement. We're talking about a guy that in 104 career games at North Florida shot 40.7% from 3. That is on 376 attempts. Last year, he averaged 7.5 attempts per game from 3 and shot 44%.
And the ball is in his hands the whole game. And what's crazy is he averaged 5 as a junior. Like, yeah. I want to know what.
It ain't even 5. You got to round up to get to 5.
Yeah, you got to. I want to know. I really want to ask him. Anybody that knows him, what happened? How did you go from averaging 5 to 20?
I mean, it's like 1.7 as a freshman, 4.5 as a sophomore, 4.7 as a junior, 19.7. But it was 19.7 on 51, 44, 88 shooting splits. He's also a good rebounder too.
I want to know what he looked like. Did he just? I mean, obviously you get better, but was he the kid, the young fella that you just the coaching staff just had to? He had to grow on you because, like, I can't imagine him, changing his game. I have to do the research, but he just seems like somebody who's like, we can't deny him. And then he finally got his opportunity and, like, look at him.
I mean, you talk about made the most of his opportunity. I know that Tennessee bag was heavy.
Yeah.
But
hey, shout out to him for staying because a lot of kids run after a couple of years, especially with the portal. He stayed. Yeah, and he did his 4 years in North Florida, and he cashed out at Tennessee allegedly.
Yeah, we don't know like the portal numbers, but I know for a guy that averaged nearly 20 a game, that shot 44% from 3, had options coming into the season from Power 5 schools. I mean, I thought that I had him listed as an NBA prospect last year just because of the shooting. Now, like I said, I saw Isaiah Joe, at least the role that I think he'll play in the NBA is the role that Isaiah Joe plays for the Thunder. Now, if he can add a little bit more, I do think that he can attack the rim on straight line drives. But if he's a guy that can knock down open shots and then can, just attack a closeout and make a play from attacking the closeout, he's going to make a lot.
But here's my thing. So like if you put him in pick and roll and he has an opportunity to like show that he can make plays, if he's playing against, you can't play drop coverage against him if he's shooting 43% from three, right? Yeah. But he does have enough to like get downhill. Now, can he run a team? I don't know. And since Zakai Ziegler won't leave, we won't know if he's going to be able to run a team. But let's see if he can be a co-star. Like I said, if he showed me like the ability to run the team, I would like love his game. I mean, I love his game, but I would love his NBA prospect.
Do you think? I mean, this is like it's like huge shoes to fill. But do you think he can have a Dalton Connect type jump?
I think it's a different draft. That Dalton Connect stimulus package is going to be hard to repeat because it's a different draft and it's a bunch of young guys. Like I'm slowly putting together my big board and I'm like, man, 20 of these dudes haven't even played basketball yet. So
yeah,
I mean, again, all of them aren't going to stick, but you know, it's a different draft.
The numbers Connect were putting up was first round in any draft. I can't believe he fell to number 16. I can't believe he fell. He can't believe he fell that far. I think that's going to be – we're going to look back at that in a year from now, maybe even like 6 months from now. But we're definitely, in my opinion, going to look back and wonder, how did Dalton Connect fall?
You see, here's the thing, though. You got to crack that rotation. If he doesn't crack that rotation, then we don't know.
That's true. I think JJ – give him some love just because maybe there's some. I mean, well, JJ was never as bouncy as Dalton Connect, but I think JJ will give him a little bit of love. All right, when we return, we have one more prospect to talk about in the Underdog Diaries. If you like 3-and-D prospects, guys that stuff the stat sheet, you will love Joe Charles. Stay tuned to find out James's thoughts on Joe Charles. But before we wrap up this episode and get into the last segment, I want to talk to you about Game Time. Why? Because Game Time is my numero uno. It is my go-to app when it comes to purchasing tickets, but it's not just tickets to sporting events. It's for plays, comedy, theaters, and more. What I love about Game Time is they have this feature where you can just toggle all in and get all in pricing. It shows you the total upfront. You have no surprise fees at checkout. And then also Game Time. The Game Time app gives you a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy, so you know exactly where you're going to sit and the view. Game Time also has the lowest price guarantee. If it's not the lowest price, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry, so you can take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app. Create an account. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA. You can get $20 off your first purchase. Again, terms apply. Create an account. Use the redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. All right, last segment. So, the 3-and-D archetype is – the wave right now. And I get it. The way the game is going, you have your dominant ball handlers. You need guys that can defend, knock down open shots, and play a complementary role to that dude that's making $50 million a year. You can make a lot of money as a 3-and-D wing. A player that caught my attention is Joe Charles. You talk about 3-and-D. He filled the stat sheet up on the defensive end. He averaged over a block a game almost 2 blocks a game and 1 steal. Stuffed the stat sheet. Shot a respectable 35% from 3, but he's about 36% from 3 over his career. But he was 40% on uncontested catch and shoot threes last year while he was at Louisiana Lafayette. He transferred to McNeese State. I think he stayed in conference. He definitely stayed in conference. I like Joe Charles. What are your thoughts on Joe Charles?
Look, he young, skinny. They list him at a couple of different sites. List him at 6'7". I've seen 6'9" at both of his schools, but at 6'9", 215, he has a lot of defensive potential. On film, he looks like if he a Thompson twin. But
wait, what?
He looks like physically, not talking about he doesn't play like them. No. But again, 6'9", 215. He's got the potential to be he is a very good on the ball defender and weak side defender. He blocks shots at the rim. He blocks jumpers. Very active in the passing lane. I got him down for 10 double-doubles last year.
He nearly averaged the double-double. He's like 0.4 rebounds away, averaged 11 points, 9.6 rebounds.
And he had some monster rebounding games. I think he had over 3 games with over 15 rebounds. So, but yeah, he's active on the glass, and I think he can attack a closeout. Now, again, he's not the strongest fella, and he's not going to be handling the ball any, but if that jump shot is real, he's got a low release. Not Sean Marion low, more like Trae Young low, but at 6'9", I guess you could get away with it. But he can attack a closeout, and I saw him make a skip pass. Again, do I foresee him making plays off the dribble? No, but it's something extra. It's something to notice that, if a guy does get chased off the line and he does have to make a decision, it looks like he can. But, yeah, he is the definition of a 3-and-D guy, shot blocking, defender, guard, multiple positions. It'll be interesting to see what he does at McNeese. Again, I need to see how lateral or vertical of a move that is. But he is somebody that could be like an undrafted free agent that you could be like, who is this guy when he does get an opportunity? But again, a lot of that hinges on that 3-ball and, him just having the strength to defend multiple positions. But he has the mindset to do it. Shout out Mike Cyprian, my friend on Twitter, FDL Hoops, man. He threw that lob to me, so I wanted to give him a little quick shout out.
Yeah, I like Joe Charles. I think that at the minimum he's 3-and-D, but and when we talked about it before, I know you don't really like the term 3-and-D. I think you should have a little bit more than 3-and-D because, and this is something that you said, if the shot isn't falling, what can you do? I do think that with Charles, there's potential for him to be a 3D straight line driver and guy that can make soft touch finishes. So he has a good floater, but he can put the ball on the floor in a couple dribbles. I like him. Now the shot, what do you think about the shot? Like, he has a weird shot. It's not Sean Marion. It's low release, but it's all arms. There's no legs. I mean, it's all arms. What do you think about the shot?
Man, look, if it goes in, I mean, my biggest issue is sometimes he's off balance. Like, he shoots off his back heels, and, people aren't guarding him out there, maybe because his shot doesn't look the prettiest, but he's making them. I don't really care what it looks like as long as it goes in. And again, over 3 years, he's been a career 36% three-point shooter, and you'll absolutely take that. So, if you were ever going to have an unconventional jump shot, it would be as a 3-and-D guy because you're going to get open shots, right? Like, I'm not asking him to shoot off the dribble or anything like that. Like, make open shots, and that's what I expect him to do if he does get that opportunity. So I wouldn't necessarily change how it looks. As long as it's going in, let's keep repping that out and go from there.
Yeah, no, he's made them. Even if he shoots 36% from 3 this year and he continues to add the same type of impact on the defensive end, I definitely think that he's going to be on NBA radars. Athletically, he was interesting to me. Usually when you see a guy with that frame of like 6'9", 215, that averages like 11 points and 9 rebounds and getting a little under 2 blocks of game, sometimes at least for me, that's usually like the makings of like this really athletic player. I think he's a good athlete, not crazy explosive. He had 8 dunks on the year, and I know dunks isn't everything, but I felt like he has a good floater, but I felt like he relies on the floater. And if I'm just being a little picky, I would love to see if he had like a bigger launching pad where he can just finish above the rim. But like I said, nitpicking, good athlete, not phenomenal, but he does have a quick second jump. He gets a lot of offensive rebounds. And usually if you have quick second jump, and you get a lot of offensive rebounds. That's the makings of having a good motor. So I do think that he has a good motor. There was one play I saw on defense. I think it may have been like they were pressing, and he was like the one like defending the ball. And they couldn't, like the point guard and whoever he was passing it to literally were struggling trying to get a pass around him because he was long enough to like steal the pass over the top, but then his wingspan, like Mississippi River wingspan. And he just frustrated this point guard because of his length and how he was moving. And then he was able to turn like a lot of like steals into like personal fast breaks and dunks. And so anyway, long story short, I feel like a lot of the dunks that I saw from him weren't in the half court. It was like in transition. I would love to see him as a guy that like attacks the closeout and goes and punches it on guys. But that's just me just being like really, really picky. But I want to say this, with his thin frame, I do think that with the right like weight program, and I'm not big on like lifting weights or workouts make you more athletic, but in his case, I do think like there's room for him to like improve as far as being like explosive.
I agree. Yeah.
Well, that wraps up this episode of the Underdog Diaries Volume 2. Again, this episode, James and I, we're going to just uncover some prospects that you may not see on draft boards. We're doing it early. We're going to do it throughout the season, but I want this to be a series where you go back in January and February, March, and be like, hey, the Locked On Big Board crew told us about these guys. But once again, thank you for making the Locked On NBA Big Board podcast your first listen of the day. Now go check out the Locked On NBA podcast, because that is where the local experts will keep you updated every day on all of the biggest storylines ahead of the 24-25 NBA season. You can find Locked On NBA on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. Once again, it's Rafael and my brother James, and we are out of here.